They called it the soft underbelly of Europe. But when the British Army came ashore in southern Italy in September 1943, they discovered something far different. The roads were mined, the hills were full of German guns, and the towns, once peaceful, had turned into rubble-filled death traps. This is the forgotten story of the British battles at Salerno. A story of burning tanks, collapsed streets, dynamite engineers, and the mountain warriors who clawed their way toward Naples, step by bloody step.
The first thing the British saw was fire. A lone truck, still smoldering, lay across the narrow Italian road. Its steel twisted like paper, its tires melted into the dust. It was a reminder. The Germans had no intention of giving up southern Italy quietly. Then came the explosion. A tank rolling forward triggered a buried charge, throwing dirt, smoke, and metal high into the air. The men kept moving. They had no choice. Germany was withdrawing north. Only after turning every road, every doorway, every hillside into a killing zone.
British infantry, bayonets fixed and rifles raised, sprinted down shattered roads. Behind them, a Mark IV tank crawled forward, its treads grinding over rubble and shell casings. Salerno's streets were a maze of collapsed houses and improvised German strongpoints. Every window could hide a rifle. Every corner could conceal a machine gun. Then the engineers arrived with one of the strangest battlefield tools of the war, a broomstick with dynamite tied to the end. A soldier crept up to a thick stone wall, shoved the improvised charge into a hole, and ran for cover. A heartbeat later, the entire building collapsed in a cloud of dust and shattered stone. One street opened, but hundreds more still stood in the way.
To push forward, the British needed tanks, but the tanks needed roads, and the roads no longer existed. Bulldozers, driven by exhausted combat engineers, pushed through the wreckage, shoving entire houses aside in a desperate race to clear a path. Debris, beams, bricks, furniture, and the remains of shattered walls were scraped away, forming narrow corridors for the armor to move. Every minute counted. The Germans weren't just retreating, they were setting up new defenses higher in the hills, and those hills would turn the battle into a nightmare. The hills above Salerno were steep, rocky, and perfect for defense. From the ridges, German mortars and artillery rained fire on the Allied advance. Shells burst across the mountainside, sending dirt and smoke rolling down the slopes. Every crater marked another attempt to break the British momentum. But the British weren't alone. From Basuto land, modern Lesotho, came a group of soldiers rarely mentioned in history books, the Basuto ammunition carriers. They weren't infantrymen, they weren't armored troops, but without them, the Salerno offensive would have slowed to a crawl. Carrying ammunition on their backs, they climbed trails so steep even mules refused them. Their boots slipped on loose stones, and the mountain wind cut into them like a knife. Some paused to eat grapes from a nearby vineyard. Small moments of humanity in a place where humanity felt far away. Higher up the slope, a Basuto rifleman scanned the underbrush. A single German sniper could stall an entire advance, and the Germans had plenty of snipers.
In the ruined villages leading toward Naples, the British sent their own snipers ahead. They worked from shattered windows, broken rooftops, and the remains of stone houses. For them, the battlefield was silent, measured in shadows, rooftops, and the faint glint of a rifle barrel. Outside, long lines of infantry moved along cratered roads and narrow mountain paths. They marched single file, cautious with every step. One wrong move could wake a sleeping German machine gun nest. The closer they got to Naples, the stiffer the enemy resistance grew. Day after day, the British pushed forward, up mountains, through villages, along mined roads. They buried their dead, carried their wounded, and pressed on. The Germans fought hard, then withdrew, then fought even harder at the next ridge. By late September, the British and their allies had clawed their way off the beaches, through Salerno, and into the gateway to southern Italy. It wasn't clean, it wasn't quick, and it wasn't the easy front some expected Italy to be. History remembers Normandy. History remembers Monte Cassino. But the battles for southern Italy, the crumbling streets of Salerno, and the deadly hills beyond were every bit as fierce. They were fought by British infantry, South African Basuto carriers, combat engineers, bulldozer crews, and snipers who scraped victory from the stones of a broken country. This is their story. A story carved into the mountains of Salerno.